the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast, your weekly disc golf analysis podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Brian Earhart. My co-host, Nate Perkins, is kind of stuck between traveling. He's on his way to New Orleans for the Big Easy Open out there at the Grand Cypress Bayou, brand new course of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We have John Houck coming up later in this episode, but first, Ricky Wysocki, your champion at the Supreme Flight Open, joins me. Rick, we weren't able to connect last week. Stuff always gets crazy when you take a tournament down. Everyone wants a piece of you. Where are you right now, and how was your weekend?
So I'm actually in New Orleans now. Took the off week and I went back to Arizona, and then I packed up my stuff in the car and drove to Dallas for the convention this weekend. There's a disc golf convention that was great. It seemed like it went really well. Went there for Saturday and Sunday, which is today, and then I got some practice in and started driving. Worked my way to New Orleans. So yeah, it was a good off week. Still played some disc golf and packed up and got ready for my official start of the tour, because since I flew to Florida and packed all my stuff in the car, now I got all my belongings in the car and I'm on tour.
When you go to one of these disc conventions, I think this is the first time they did it in Dallas area, I believe, correct?
I think second. Yeah, they had one last year. I think it's the second year of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So when you go to something like one of these, like I'm like a nice B list in the world of disc golf, B, C list. So it's like, you get some people, you have some great conversation. Maybe someone buys you a drink. Life is great. What is it like for you going to one of these things?
Well, I think it's awesome. So it's for me, it's kind of just as the type of person that I am. I'm a very genuine person, and I really truly enjoy everyone that gets to share their story of, oh, good job, good shooting. Oh, me and my son were watching you and we were rooting for you. All those different things. Like, it's just awesome to hear that. I think that I'm definitely the type of player that always feeds off of people's energy, and whether it's in person or it's cool to hear it after the fact of oh, I was rooting for you, it's been 500 days. Like, a lot of people actually mentioned what you said with the 580 days, so like that's kind of a cool storyline that like got to break the trend in a good way, right? It's
Yeah.
like, all right, it's been a while now, I broke that cycle, and so they brought that up. So they used kind of your stat that you had brought up in an interview or something. So that was kind of cool as well. So just kind of sharing the moment really kind of feels like they're a piece of it with me, right? Because they can share where they're watching it and they're, with their family member or whatever. Oh, I've been rooting for you since you started your career. So that part just never gets old, right? And luckily for me, I've got such a solid fan base that, have always supported me. And I think people just truly, I think really the biggest thing is just being genuine and being very thankful, because I am. And so, yeah, it was cool to share that moment with them. It was almost like got to kind of relive the win with my fans that weren't there on the premises last week. So that was the takeaway from this week.
Well, I want to say you have kind of a different take on the disc golf community, or maybe even a different connection than maybe some of the newer, younger players who jumped straight out on the tour. You've been out here for a very long time. What is this, year 16, 15 for you? Something like that?
Yes, something like that. I think it is. Yeah, I think it's 16.
16 years out here. So I want you to zoom out, because when you're on tour 15, 16 years ago, it's not the same as it is now at all. You kind of had to manufacture it for yourself. And really, you and everyone in your class, you and Paul especially, created that excitement to kind of push professional disc golf to the next level. What was touring like for you before all of that started to break out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that for me it was like what like with for me, my fondest memory going on tour, kind of starting the tour, was I went to the Brent Hambrick, which is a big tournament. I went there with Avery and Valerie and Nate Doss. They were all in the RV, and they were the best players in the world at the time, and I got to travel with them a little bit, and was super excited to kind of just learn how to tour, learn their lifestyle and things like that. So I got to go in there for a couple months with them. So that was cool to kind of see the lifestyle. And then after that, I liked the lifestyle, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this myself. And got my car. I had like a Honda Accord at the time.
Ooh.
And yeah, so I got a Honda Accord, and I bought it with tournament earnings. I was super pumped. I was like, it wasn't a luxury car, but it was just what I needed to tour with. And I was just thankful to pack my stuff up and literally live in my car, because at that time I was literally living in my car. It was like right now you hear, oh, I'm living in my car, but like I get Airbnbs. I'm able to like spread out and sleep on a nice bed and you know and all that stuff. Whereas back then, literally, it was sleeping in my car. Like I literally had a bag of Trummix that was in the crevice of the between the seats that I would grab. It had all kinds of who knows what in there, and I would eat that for breakfast. Like that was my take a couple bites of that, like reach my hand in that Trummix bag, and that was my breakfast. Like literally, that was living in my car. so, so, so to doing that for like I would say the first year or so, like is just kind of scraping by and just and then my ceiling was like, hey, I made cash. Sweet. I got my entry fee back. I got like $120 or whatever the entry fee was. And maybe, like that was for like a year, that was kind of my ceiling is like, okay, I wasn't very, good on a professional level yet. I was just, if I played well for my standards at the time, I would I would make my entry fee back and be able to get to the next tournament type of thing, and and that's the extent of it. So there was really no talk about the future, right? It was just like, okay, I got to do this short, not short term, but like I want to do this long term, but I got to see how the short term goes first before we get there. It wasn't like I was planning on failing, but I wasn't like I was kind of in the middle ground of like, okay, I wasn't planning on failing, but I wasn't also planning on going on tour. It was like I'm just out here as a young kid, like all my stuff's in my car, like I got nothing to lose. This is what I got. Like, yeah, that was kind of the mindset.
So when you were touring for like you got to go back for a second. How did you end up touring with some of the best players in the planet and also some of the best Avery Jenkins in my eyes when I hear stories about him is like the best traveler in disc golf. Is that true? Like it seems like he knows so much, like every restaurant, every brewery, every disc golfer, every club leader. How did you get in a car with these guys?
Yeah, so I got very lucky. Our home course in Ohio obviously had Valerie Jenkins, world champion, Avery Jenkins, and we had also an amateur world champion that came from our club. And I think his name was Mike Sommerfeld, and he was from our home club, and then me. So we had a lot of pretty high level players, and obviously Avery's parents, Sharon and Leroy, they were they were huge and influential in the disc golf world in my career, and then just running tournaments and all throughout the disc golf world. I think a lot of people knew and respected them, and for good reason. They really had they were diehard disc golfers that just wanted to see the sport grow, and so. I was lucky to be able to be with them and kind of they took me under their wing and they really showed me what it meant to be a professional. So I from a young age really respected the sport and I saw it from a different light. I didn't see it from like okay, there's just a bunch of hippies, throwing discs at trees at the local park. It was like okay, no, like these guys are professionals and they take it serious. This is their livelihood, this is their careers. Like so I think that actually shaped me in a really really good way, respecting the game and from that standpoint, as opposed to some people at that time growing up and seeing the sport. Really, they didn't respect it as much because at that time there really wasn't the glitz and glamour of the money and the certain lifestyle aspects to it that there are now. So, and I saw it kind of before it even really developed because they were the kind of they were kind of obviously there's people before them, but for my era, those were the people that were making a living and making a career and the
Yeah.
best athletes at the time. So they were who I looked up to.
How was your relationship with them initially? Did they instantly take you in? Were they annoyed by you as a little kid going out there on tour with them? Like, what was that like? Did they ever tell you after the fact?
Yeah, so I think in the beginning it was obviously I think they saw my potential. I didn't as a young kid you don't know how good you are compared to professionals, right? Like I had never really played. I played locally and I've thought I was pretty good, but you don't know until you go out there and test your skills, right? And so I think they saw it kind of even more so than I did, my potential. I didn't really have the confidence at that young of an age yet. Being like 16, 17 years old. And so I think them seeing that really gave me a little bit of confidence. Like, okay, these professionals think that I can go out here and play tournaments and start playing. What they kind of pushed me to start playing tournaments and like, hey, there's a tournament over here. Like I said, the Brent Hambrick was a really big tournament for me because it was the biggest. It was on the national tour, which is basically equivalent to the pro tour, kind of then not the same, but like for that time period, that was kind
Oh
of
yeah.
all the best players went to all the pro national tour events. So. Um, so yeah, that was kind of the event that I had been looking forward to, is that Brent Hambrick in Ohio. It was all the best players in the world, and so that kind of shaped me into like the kind of tournament prep mindset of okay, I'm going to practice. I'm going to, just had that in my mind, like I want to play good in my first, really big event. Obviously, I'd played B tiers and stuff before that, but I hadn't played like a big event with all the best players at that time.
When I went on tour, I did the same thing my first year. I stayed at some Airbnbs, but I did a lot of tent camping and meeting random people at the courses and trying to get a place to set my camp up in their yard. And it was truly like a life-changing experience for me. I learned so many life lessons going out there and realizing how big the world truly was, and also how special the disc golf community was and how many cool people there were out there. Did you have a similar experience when you were first getting out there, cutting your teeth and putting everything into this game?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I was always a Facebook poster like, hey, I'm looking for a spot to stay, and who knows, Jonesboro, Arkansas, or wherever I was, and then I would get a response, and I would go hang out, and next thing you know, I'm throwing discs in some random person's backyard, practice putting, and or whatever it was, right? And then, come to find out, like some of the connections I made back then, I still have. Like I have, you know, some people I've known for 10, 12 years that I've seen their kids grow up. I've been to the tournament in their town every year. Uh, and so some of the relationships started off completely random, but then they turned into something like I call them, I keep in touch with them, and so that's the part of the grassroots part of disc golf that some people don't realize, that is, it still is a thing.
Yeah,
People, with the host families, there's I would say there's a decent amount of people that still use the host families and stuff. And I wouldn't even call it use. It's more of like, they love doing it. We love also doing, hanging out with them. We'd rather hang out with some locals that can tell us where to eat, hey,
exactly.
go try this course out, yeah, instead of just sitting there staring at the TV in your hotel room or whatever, right? Like it's kind of just more, that's how disc golfers are. They want to be out and about in the city. That's part of the lifestyle that like you grow up in and you learn to enjoy, and they can help with that. They can, hey, go over to this restaurant, go, if you want to go party a little bit, go to this bar on Friday night. There's always a lot of fun time, music, blah blah blah, all that stuff, so the fact that they know that is just, it's awesome. And I think that, it's always I feel like it's always a give and take. Like that's how I've grown up my whole life is, hey, sweet, I feel like I'm very thankful to be staying with these people in Jonesboro. If they come to Arizona, I got them. They just let me know, you guys got
Exactly.
a spot to stay anytime. Yeah, and even if they don't do it, they always have that in the back of their head. Maybe they will one year, and then I'll be, more than happy to return the favor. So that's kind of, the ins and outs of those dynamics that I've grew accustomed to, which I love it.
Well, Rick, I remember during the interview, again, I still think it's so funny that Paul had Pablo run up and hit the putt in your face as we were about to do our interview. I thought that was hilarious, but it kind of made me go, whoa, like we're all in our 30s now. Like this is wild. I remember back in 2011,
Uh-huh.
I played the AM side of the PDGA championships. I took my first big road trip. You were playing pro at the PDGA championships. You won that tournament. And now here we are. We got great gray in our beards. Our kids are going up and hitting putts
Yeah.
in Ricky's face. I want you to
Uh-huh.
go back and take that question I asked you a little bit farther, because you've known Paul a long time and you guys took off together and you guys went back and forth for such a long time. When you reflect on both of your journeys in this game, you guys are one of the few people that have contracts that will allow you to really retire when you're done playing this game. What do you remember most? What memories pop out to you, whether it's on the course, off the course, in your dealings with Paul?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot that comes to my mind, but basically it started in Florida. I remember we used to spend an off season in Florida, and we traveled together. We did the whole Texas swing. I think that was a big event. So I remember doing a Texas swing. We traveled together, him and his girlfriend at the time. We'd all traveled and we were playing. And I remember, I guess, rewind to the Texas swing. I remember it was a tournament in Texas, and I've just always, throughout my career, I've always played well in Texas. But there was a tournament where I remember we were always good. We were good friends in the beginning. That's what people don't realize. And it's not that we're not good friends, but it's just obviously the rivalry and the competition. It's hard to really stay that good of friends through that. Just just being honest. And but in the moment we were in Texas. I'd been playing well, and I remember a point where like we went back to the hotel room. We were staying at the hotel. I think I was on an air mattress or something. Him and his girlfriend were in the bed or something. I don't know. That's probably what it was. Back then it was like, all right, like you just kind of get by. And I remember it being a little bit of an awkward silence between us where he was kind of just doing his thing and I was doing my thing. And we got to a point where it's like, okay, do we want to go play mini golf or not really? It's kind of like a little bit of like, because we used to always go play mini golf and do different things, right? But that stuff got to a point where like the week in and week out of like cutthroat, like I want to beat you, you want to beat me, kind of just took its toll, I guess, a little bit. And just from the competitive side, not necessarily the friend side, it was more just the competitive side, I think. So I think looking back, it was like, okay, it's taken its toll. I think we're not gonna like I don't remember exactly what how it transpired, but I think the overall gist of it was like, okay, we're just gonna go our separate ways, right? And then and which was okay, there was nothing bad. But then it just obviously the competition kept, that was pretty early on, probably I don't know, 13, 14, something like that, those years, if I had to put a year on it. And so then, we split. He did his own thing, I did my own thing, and I think ever since then it was kind of just that, the hotel room syndrome of like, okay, whether it doesn't matter, I don't even remember if I beat him or he beat me. It was just like we both wanted to win, and one of us is going to win, one of us is going to lose. So one's going to be pissed and one's going to be like happy. So it's this weird dynamic of like, okay, we don't really want to be around each other, right? Because like we're too competitive to like, I don't want to play mini golf, like you beat me or whatever it is, like or vice versa, right? Like in our head that might have been like deep down what was like we're just pissing ourselves, like we don't want to talk or we don't want to do anything, like we just want to dwell in our sorrows and think about like how we can get better to beat the other person or whatever. Like so so yeah, I think that's kind of in that moment, that's how that kind of transpired. And then so yeah, it's funny how it progressed from we used to be good friends to that to like, the heat of competition for let's call it 5 to 10 years and continuing. And then to where we're at kind of now is, it's getting obviously it's gotten a little bit better. We're on the same team now. Um, I feel like it's, he's got a whole separate life now. He's got a family and everything. So I think, yeah, it's just we're kind of in different stages now, but to where we can be a little bit more cordial. We're talking a little bit more, right? I think there's still those competitive juices are
Yeah.
always going to be there, but it's, yeah.
I've noticed that both you guys have a mutual respect. I can feel it now. I remember when I was following disc golf and I was playing alongside of you guys. I think I played with you really early on. I don't remember what tournament it was, but anyway, I know it wasn't always like that. I feel like now you guys can be professionals about things and have a good time. But what blows me away is that he's in year 19, technically, you're in year 16, and you guys are still on lead cards. You guys are still going. Does that ever surprise you that the young generation is still like not completely wedging you guys out?
Yeah, I think it almost reminds me of like the Nadal Federer kind of tennis and Djokovic, like those guys,
Definitely.
like that era of tennis players, like they just were so good for so long, right? And and I think that's kind of where the analogy I would use is that like the game evolves and you go through shifts and the best players, there's always those couple, right? You got the LeBrons, the Nadal, Federer, those guys that they know the game so well and they're so they want it so much and they have that passion, right? There's different professionals in every sport. There's professionals that they start with the passion, they get to the money, and they that fizzles out, right? And then they're just kind of doing they go about their life. Or there's the professionals that, like I think for me and Paul, it was at least for me, I'll just speak for me as a passion. That was the number one thing. That was always the first thing. The passion still takes me to where I'm at today. The money kind of followed the passion, and the passion just hasn't dwindled. And I think that's really where you get the people like myself. I think for me, that's just where I'm at. Is the passion is always going to be there. At least I hope so. And so as long as it is, then I'm going to be able to play my best, be my best, and and so I think that's for me on a deep level. That's really where it stems from. Is how you can is what determines whether you're going to have a long career and want to play a professional sport for as long as you can, which I do.
Well, thank you for that, by the way. That was fantastic info. And frankly, a few of those things I don't think you've ever told me before. So I appreciate that. But I want to move
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I want to move now to Gannon because it was so funny. You chimed in on that post of Gannon saying, "Oh, Ricky's called me lucky, to my face." And you chimed in and said, "Well, Gannon, did you get lucky or not?" And he said, "Well, yeah, a few times. I got lucky a few times." But I know that for you deep down, you wouldn't be trash talking like that to just anybody. I feel like you wouldn't do that. What is it
Yeah.
in Gannon, and what have you noticed over the years that made you feel like, okay, like this kid needs to get put in his place? Is it just because he was winning so much, or is there something about him as an athlete that you kind of took to?
Yeah, I think partly is like that's kind of his personality. Like he likes to troll people. Like he likes to, he's always, if you know him well enough, he's always kind of putting that energy out there, right? So it's like, all right, if you're gonna do that, you got to give it back. So the give and take kind of syndrome. Um, actually, it's funny. I think I'll elaborate a little bit more on that. I think that it was USDGC, and I think it was me, AB. That's where the luck thing started. I think where me and AB and Gannon were on lead card at USDGC. I think this was 2 years ago when Gannon won 2 years ago USDGC. In the final round, me and AB were like we watched like a couple lucky shots go his way, right? So we're just like, okay, this is, and then it got to a point where you're like, of course you're battling with somebody you see, and as a professional, like, okay, if you make a certain mistake, 99 times out of 100, you're this result. A shot leads to B result, right? Well, whenever you see the thing about disc golf is not all the time you throw a good shot and it gets a good result. It's vice versa. Bad shots don't always get bad results. So you see someone throw a bad shot and get a good result, and you're competing against them. It kind of gets under your skin a little bit for the fact that like you feel cheated a little bit, right? So me and AB were battling, and that's just the psychology of it. I'll go into that to kind of build it up so you guys can understand. So, I think it was like hole 3 is where it started. The new hole, it's a par 4, and there's that tree that kind of sticks
Mm-hmm.
out, right? Like if you
Yeah.
throw it too low, you hit that tree. Well, he throws it into the middle of the tree, and it flies all the way through the tree like the tree didn't even exist, and flew right to the sweet spot. And me and AB just looked at each other like, what in the heck just happened? You throw it in that tree, it swats down, and you've thrown it like 100 feet off the tee. Instead, he glided out there and had a 500-foot perfect shot. And you're like, oh, okay, all right. And the first one's okay, all right. Like that was super lucky. That's not where his disc should have landed based on his quality of his shot that he threw, right? Like we're professionals. We know what we're trying to throw. Like you're not cheating us. Like we know if you got away with one. And so like, okay, whatever. And then I think it was the water hole. He there's the hole five, the tree that sticks out.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
think it was before they had a Mando there. So they only had the Mando on the like this when you throw the second shot, that landing zone on the right there. They had
Yeah.
that Mando right there. And then once on the third shot, there was no Mando on that corner tree, right? So I think what happened
Oh
is
yeah.
so he like we all as a professional, hey, I got to throw inside that left side of that tree, right? Otherwise bad things are going to happen. Because there's trees and water and stuff over there. So like, okay, that's kind of your reference point to know where you want to throw your shot. Well, everyone throws a normal shot, and then Gannon throws, and he yanks it completely to the right side of that tree, which is all just trees everywhere. No, so 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 here's his second complete shank, which these shanks are basically two-stroke swing shanks. They're not just like a one-stroke. Okay, you got a par. No, like you mess those shots up that he messed up, you're getting a bogey because you're. Instead, he flies all the way through the tree like it didn't exist once again, or it even might have kicked a tree. If you watch the coverage, you'll be able to see it. And he literally, I think he ended up getting a birdie out of it. So the quality of shot was bogey potential, very more than likely a bogey, and ended up getting a birdie. So it's a two-stroke swing. So now this is the second time we've got cheated. and
I'm crying right now, man.
and so it doesn't end there. And so there was like I think it was like what okay. So there was like two or more instances just like that. I can't remember the exact ones, but eventually, like I think I went blank after that. I'm like, I was so frustrated mentally, like, okay, like I'm throwing good shots, throwing them where I'm supposed to be. He's throwing shanks and getting the same score or better than I am. Like, what is happening right now? And of course, I'm exaggerating. Like he threw a lot of good shots too. I'm just saying that
Of
when you're
course.
shanks, oh yeah, when you're if you're that's how disc golf goes. I'm the same way. If you're that's that's a lot of times where the luck does come into play is a lot of us throw really good shots. It's whenever you throw a bad shot, which is going to happen, nobody's perfect. What happens, right? Are you getting lucky? Are you getting unlucky? Of course, our goal is to be as perfect as possible so we don't leave it up to luck, right? But Gannon's a good enough player to where he's going to throw enough good shots to get
Yeah.
birdies. And if that happens, then he's going to have really good results and win a lot of tournaments. That's just how it
Yeah.
goes. And so there's no taking that away. It's just whenever certain things happen and as a professional, I think we realize things more so than even the typical viewer. As you know, Brian, you
Yeah.
know the exact shot everyone's trying to throw, exact nose angle, we know everything what we're trying to do. Even though our games are all different, where the sweet spots are, where you're trying to land. So all that stuff. Um, and then the final one was hole 15. This was the final straw where where uh so there was a blank part in the round at USDGC that I went blank because I'm like, this is not healthy for me to keep thinking about how lucky this guy's getting. Because it's not. That's the other thing. Like, if you're thinking about what someone else is doing, that's already like not a good thing, right?
Yeah,
Like
of
that's
course.
just sometimes it's easier said than done, but and sometimes it's easier. Like, okay, most of the time you throw a bad shot, you get swatted down into the water and you take your bogey. Like but like, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just whenever as a professional, sometimes too much. You're like, okay, he was supposed to get punished, but he didn't. And it's like, you have to separate results sometimes because it can make you go crazy, right? And, but anyways, 15's the clown's mouth hole, and that this was ridiculous. It was probably the worst shank of the entire tournament on that hole that I've ever seen. He throws it 45 degrees, completely like if we're on a clock and the fairway's 12 o'clock, he threw the shot at like 7 o'clock, literally straight left into the jungle. Literally, that thing was going. If there was no trees there, that thing would have went literally
Uh,
probably I don't even know 200 feet left of where the double Mando is. Literally, after it skipped and hyzered way left. So he freaking
uh,
throws it into the bushes, and they're like, okay, whatever. Like, yeah, you're gonna be in the bushes. Well, it like clips a tree, I guess, miraculously, and literally he's going 45 into the woods, directs perfectly down the middle, like he pured the gap on the freaking double Mando. So yeah, everyone's like clapping for, oh yeah, good shot. He gets claps for a shot that he threw literally directly sideways. And now the fans are actually clapping. Not only they're like, oh, they're actually clapping for him. Because his shot is now perfect in the perfect landing zone. Where it's basically an automatic
uh,
bogey, like because you have to pitch up and then you have no angle from there barely, because
mhm.
it's like you're having to lay up twice because you have no angle.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Man,
so now we're up to so
we're up to 16 now.
that's where that all started. Yeah, we're up to six strokes of luck. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, I want to
Yeah,
stop you real
so
quick.
that
I
was
want
the
to
round where
go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, so that was just the round where I think he's probably referring to, just to put it in context. So I figured I'd throw
Mhm.
that out there so everybody knows now. Um, but yeah, that was that was that's the Gannon round.
I'm gonna this clip, this story of the round. This is gonna go into the PGA. We're gonna send them this clip. It's gonna go into the archives forever. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful piece of disc golf media. Um, Signed and dated by Ricky Wysocki. Thank you, my friend.
That's
What I
so
will say,
funny.
I want to zoom out on this a little bit. You mentioned it got under your skin. How often in your career can you recall? Because I can tell, like I saw you reliving the emotions, like right there.
Yeah,
How
right.
many times has that gotten under your skin that much? Like, where does that rank all time for you of getting worked?
That is up there. I would say it's pretty up there for sure. Um, because as an athlete, as a player, you can tell when someone's dialed in and they're throwing really good shots. And of course, Gannon, he throws really good shots. There's nothing about that. But whenever, like, the good shots, like I said earlier, are always going to work because you've perfected that shot on that hole. But whenever the bad shots, and you can tell someone's not necessarily playing their best and not, their shots aren't necessarily coming out perfect like they want, but yet they still get, let's, in his case, he still won, right? Um, is that, like, there's this level of frustration that people probably don't realize, that, like, we're all in tune with each other's game, that at least for me, I know exactly right away, like, okay, he's playing really good. I got to play well today. You know, not that, like, okay, he's getting lucky, like I got to play even better, like, to make up for that. Like, there's those little things that go on in your head. So yeah, it's up there, the moments that get under your skin, but and I know this, like, at the same time, like, there's the dynamic in disc golf that is some luck, and some in the result thing is really where I get stuck sometimes mentally, that if you're paying attention, like, partly, obviously it's partly on me, like, I shouldn't be worried that much about what he's doing if I'm taken away from my mental focus and what I'm doing. And at times like that is when it's the hardest, because it continues to happen, right? Everyone's gonna have the random luck. Oh, you threw it in the water, skipped off the water, and you're safe, or whatever. Right? But, like, when those moments keep happening, then it starts adding up to where, like, what you saw earlier is, it's like, okay, like, now I'm feeling like I'm getting cheated, right? Like, one or two is funny to laugh about, and then it's like, okay, now it's getting to
I'm
the point where
trying to
it's like,
win this
okay, like,
tournament. Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to win this tournament, and this guy is not getting punished like he should. Like, in a sense, you feel like you literally feel like you're getting cheated out of this tournament, which is not the reality. That's what happens mentally in your head, because we're such perfectionists that we say, we're all perfectionists here. This guy's not, he's not, he's not perfect, which nobody is, but he's way less than perfect, on a level to where I feel like I'm playing better than him. And he scores better. And it goes both ways. I've been on the side of it too, where I don't feel like I'm playing my best. Someone else is playing better, but I score better, right? Like, that's disc golf sometimes. There's times throughout my career where it happens on the other side, where I feel like I'm playing like crap, but don't score. And you've been through this, Brian. You feel like you're playing really good and don't score. So that when
Yeah.
it's on that side of the spectrum, whenever and that's also a testament to, I think, there is something to, if you're more confident on a shot, you probably I have this weird feeling you get more lucky. That's another thing too. Obviously, that's not science backed, but it's
Science back.
but
It is
yeah.
science back. Yep.
um but like, whenever you're throwing a tunnel shot, like, if you go into that tunnel shot a little timid, a little shy, like, I always say, the gap can sense that, right? But if you go into a tunnel shot with confidence, you're ready to hammer that disc and smash that line, right? Like, feels like, even if you don't, you have a more of a chance to get some sort of reaction or something, the more confidence you have, that's going to favor the shot that you want. And so there is a lesson to be learned there, that you obviously won't know, but he probably was very strong mentally, very confident, all those things, like, and the universe and the course and all that could sense
Uh,
that. And, like, there is something to that. And so, yeah, I mean, all those variables definitely played a
uh,
role.
well, I have to say, one of the funniest stories I've ever heard in my life. The way you performed it too, I got to give you just like a standing ovation. Um, Thank you for that. But I know both of those guys you enjoy at the end of the day, you've enjoyed playing against Paul. You enjoy competing against Gannon. I know that for a fact. You want people to bring their best stuff to the table because it fires you up to perform your best as well. And you kicked off the season, got the win in Florida. You played fantastic coming down the stretch, except for 18. You gave us a real heart attack there. But we're going to New Orleans. John Houck has designed a 12,370-foot course with monster lines, man-made ponds, and crazy double fairways like he always does. I want to ask you, you've played a lot of Houck courses. I saw you out there at WR Jackson many times. What are your experiences with John? What are your memories with him? And what do you like about his design?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is he always does this short par threes in the middle of the course. That was something he always used to do. Where I thought that was kind of cool. where you would have these challenge. A lot of times you'd have these challenging holes, and then like W.R. Jackson was right in the middle of the course. I don't remember exactly the hole numbers, but you would have three short par threes that were very gettable that could make or break your round at the same time. They're two-stroke swing par threes, a lot of them, and a lot of them you wanted to birdie to make your round instead of breaking it, which it could. So they were risk reward par threes that were very gettable, and I think that was kind of his staple. And in Texas they had them. W.R. Jackson they had them, I remember, and so that's one thing. And then a lot of, like you said, double fairways where you'll have two fairways to one landing zone. So you'll have like a, let's say, a lefty, lefty hyzer and a righty, hyzer on that kind of meets up at the landing zone for, like, let's say, a par four. So you can take two different ways to get to the fairway, and that's something that he really does, and it makes it interesting for sure because you can have two, a sidearm player and a backhand player throwing two different shots and land in right in the same spot in the perfect zone to attack for a birdie. So yeah, knowing that, it's going to be interesting because he allows players to get creative. I think that's a good thing. Whether you're lefty, righty, forehand, backhand dominant, there's always something to look at, always something to think about, which is kind of cool as a course designer. You can and as a player too, because you can always you can try to play to your strengths as much as possible if you have the options. And of course, you're always going to have those forced holes where it's a straight shot, no matter if you're backhand, forehand, lefty, righty. Like, you have to be able to throw straight, right? But there's always those handful of holes where you can get creative and use your skill set to your advantage and showcase your skills that John and his course design allows you to. So I think there's going to be a good mix of all those different variables: the short par threes, the par fours with double fairways, the tunnel shots, all that. So I'm excited. And being in New Orleans, I've never really played a tournament. I can't even really say I played a
Same.
course in Louisiana. Yeah. So yeah, there hasn't been any really big tournaments until now
Nope.
here. So I know Matty O always used to play
What is it,
was it
pot of
Pot of
gold?
Gold? Yes.
Yeah.
I always hear him talking about that. So he's probably won that thing, I think, like 10 or 12 years in a row or something crazy. So um so yeah, that's really all I know about Louisiana disc golf. So I'm excited.
Well, Rick, I want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm going to kick you out of here and say thank you. Good luck this week. I'll see you out there. I'll be in the booth. Say hi to Nate Perkins for me. And okay, let's bring John in. Ricky, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You can keep this in the podcast or you can take it out, Tosi. But this is a conversation I've been waiting to have since I was a little kid, holding my PDGA magazine, reading the John Houck course design sections that he would put in there. I would jump straight to the course design section. So John, thank you so much for joining me today. Nate Perkins not here, unfortunately. You're going to get to meet him in Louisiana when the tournament goes on, but thank you so much for your time today.
Oh my God, I'm so happy to be here, Brian, and that is a very touching story. I'm so glad that somebody was actually reading those articles with enthusiasm. And yeah, sorry to miss Nate, but I'm very happy to have this time with you.
Well, I think there's a lot to talk about. And I think the one thing I wish you could share more, or want you to share more, is not just about the design itself that you did out there in Louisiana, but the story leading up to it. How did the design gig come about? When did the Disc Golf Pro Tour approach you to do this? How did this all fall into place?
Okay, that is a great place to start, and it's an amazing story. So this all started back in 2015, and I believe the original contact with us came from a city count or parish councilman who somehow got interested in disc golf, and we went and met with them. Dee and I did, and next thing you know, course opens in 2017. It's been a top 100 course as long as UDisc top 100 has existed. And then on this next go round, it was actually the club who reached out to us, the New Orleans Disc Golf Club, who are just killing it right now. And they reached out to us. They wanted Dee to do a feasibility for them, which she did. They brought that to the parish. The parish obviously had familiarity with disc golf, knew that it was already bringing people to the community. At the same time, Dee had been working with it's called Visit Jefferson Parish, because we had her design conference there last year. So they were interested. The Pro Tour, of course, is always looking for places, places that are fun to go to with large populations that don't have a disc golf event right now. New Orleans got to be just about at the top of that list. So it really all came together all at once, and the parish has been all in on this event, all in on the course improvements. The club has been amazing, and of course, it's tremendous to be working with the Pro Tour. So it's every aspect of it has come together, and we were just super excited about it.
So I'll ask a question that maybe differentiates this course from other courses that you've done. And I'm thinking about the iconic courses you've done, like Sailor Ranch, Hillcrest Farms, W.R. Jackson, obviously the courses that you're remembered for. I know you've done a lot more. Harmony Bends, another phenomenal course that I love. This one, with a Pro Tour event being here, how much less freedom do you have in designing the course, if any less freedom?
Wow, that's interesting. I think the one time in my career that I made a course that was specifically made to test the best of the best was the original W.R. Jackson. And they of the three courses that were there, W.R. Jackson was meant to be the one that's, the best challenge we have for the best players. And of course, players got better and better over the years. We got to 2017 when we lengthened the course and made some changes to get ready for Pro Worlds that year. And this guy Ricky still shoots at 13. I'm like, what do I got to do, Ricky? So now we're almost 10 years past that, and look at what the talent pool has come to. So it's a real test, and I'm speaking now just about the MPO, because the course that's there, that has been there since 2017, is just about right where we would want it for FPO. Obviously, we've made some changes, we've put in some new holes, but it's so hard to present today's players with challenges that they don't just step right up to. That's been the hardest part for me. Now, it was a little bit challenging trying to expand an existing course rather than building something from scratch. So, there were some holes where we could only move the tee back so far or lengthen the pin so far from the MPO. Places where, of course, at W.R. Jackson or the original Parc des Familles, being able to accommodate spectators, not part of the planning, but it is now. So I think probably the best news on that front is there are fairways that are just about the perfect distance apart, so that the fairways don't interfere with each other, and spectators can get in between the two and potentially watch two fairways at the same time. So and as anybody who knows anything about that course knows, another challenge is just that it's so flat. And from a design perspective, that's a real challenge to me. And of course, I love a challenge. So it's a different approach, different challenges, but I'm pretty happy, very happy actually, with where we are now.
Well, I'd love to dive in a little bit on what you said about designing a championship course from an existing course that may be blue level, slightly blue to gold. What do you think about that description?
It's pretty blue. The last A tier that they had last year, the pot of gold, uh, par came in at 965. So Paige Pierce is there. She shoots a 4 over and a 2 under. All right, so that's great. Silas and Matteo and, oh my goodness, one other player who are there. They're shooting, 12, 13, 14. So it was already great for the women, and even, not terrible for gold, but for what we consider black level now for the
Yeah.
for the MPO, we really needed to step it up.
So when you do that, it feels like when you walk an existing course, lines kind of open themselves up to you when it comes to making a longer tee, putting a basket somewhere. On this course, how much did you just use existing space that was already kind of cut out? And how much did you have to cut out new fairways from your imagination?
Well, for MPO, every fairway is new, at least to some extent, right? Four fairways in a new part of the park in the woods, completely new, 100% from scratch. Within the existing footprint of the course, one hole completely new, two other holes, I'd say at least 50% new, and the rest of it, every other hole got at least a new tee or a new basket, and in many cases, both. So, and in pretty much every case, that meant going into an area that had never been cleared before. This, in my career, at the time this went in, I think it was only the second or third course where I said to the parish, I can't even walk through this thing the way it is now. So overgrown,
Wow.
particularly with briars. So there was going to be blood involved no matter what. But we had them come in and kind of make a checkerboard of passes with the forestry mulcher so that I could even get around the property and see what's going on. So that's in this case on the upgrade, it's a initially a best guess on where's going to be the best new tee, where's going to be the best new basket. We send the forestry mulcher in there, they start to clear it out. And at that point, I start to get a feeling for it. And I say, okay, we're good. We just need to be a little wider, or we need to try a little more to the left or to the right, and that kind of thing. So, because, we have to be conscious and careful with the parish's resources. We're not going to say just take your forestry mulcher and clear 80 acres and let us know when you're done. So it was a real conservative and iterative process. And compared to a lot of other courses, you get these huge, amazing cypress trees that are so much a part of the vibe there that it's not like other places where we can say, okay, well, we need to widen the fairway a little bit, so let's take this tree, this tree. In this case, it's we do not want to mess with these cypress trees, so more a matter of working around what's there to keep them there and keep that flavor because it's just there's no place like it. Certainly not in the disc golf world. The cypress trees and the whole feel of it are just so special.
Well, John, all this work had to be done in a very short window of time. So, talk about designing a course that you feel is appropriate for the best players in the planet, which is a group that's evolving constantly within this short window.
Yes, it was a short window and it got shorter than what we thought it was. So I'll answer your question about the design part, but I want to acknowledge the build part of it, the clearing, the limbing, the surface, the planting the grass and all the things that had to happen after the design happens. So I think I got on site to start the redesign about July 10th. And what we didn't know at that time was that we were going to eventually have a December 10th deadline that we had to be done because they needed to seed the whole course, overseed the course in some places, and give it 3 months to take and start to grow. So that's a 5 month window, but we get we get just a few weeks into it and we're clearing all these new areas with the forestry mulcher and the forestry mulcher goes down. It needed a part which was supposed to take a week, and so I checked back in a week and no, it's not there yet. In 2 weeks, I mean, the machine that everything depended on was down for 6 weeks. and it finally got back, and it lasted about 2 days, and then it went down again. So altogether, we were without our main piece of equipment for just about 2 months. So that took our 5 month window and made it a 3 month window. So to do what it took to get there was an unbelievable team effort. We were doing everything we could on the design part, working with the forestry mulcher, and then the other aspects of it. The parish had their resources and sending their people. I mean, we had not just the parks people who work in that park, recreation people from other divisions who came in to chip in, other divisions that came in to work on the pond. Another division sent a second forestry mulcher to try to keep things moving. And right now, I was out there today. The New Orleans Disc Golf Club, they had, I heard somewhere between 40 to 50 people
Wow.
out there working on the course yesterday.
Wow.
And yes, and the rumor is that somebody who knows said that is a DGPT record for the number of volunteers, in one day coming out to work on the course. And they were back out there today. I'm sure I saw at least 25. So we were probably north of 30, 40 again, and they're just doing a tremendous job. So kudos, and there were contractors too, especially November, December, who just everybody working overtime, working at light speed to make this happen. And when people see it, it's incredible. It is so green and lush and beautiful, and the lines are clean, and we have a new pond, and we have other new features. It's just been incredible. So gold medals for everybody who worked on this and really got all of this, so much work done in basically 3 months.
Well, diving into the work you did to cut brand new lines in areas where you said it was even hard to walk through initially, I want to ask about that. I'm very curious what your method is. Do you go into areas like that with a design philosophy in mind of what shape you want, or do you look at the land through all the vines, through all the thorns and briars, and see something pop out to you?
Well, in this case, I would look through the areas that the forestry mulcher had already been in,
Ah,
because I mean, I would come in at the end of the day so bloody. I'm like, and the guy who's primary operator of the forestry mulcher, his name is Sammy, and he is so good at what he does. And he initially was hoping that I would put flagging up that he could follow. And after a while, I said, Sammy, I'm gonna point you in this direction. And just go take a shot at it, because I've had enough pain from these broad. It almost unimaginably bad out there in some spots. So I picked the area that we wanted to put these holes in, based primarily on the fact that it's high and dry most of the year, because there are other parts of the park that'll stay wet good parts of the year. And then, when where hole number one is going to be, because we took the original 18 and everybody agreed that was going to be number one. So that kind of restricts where 18 can be. I knew that we wanted to incorporate the canal in the design, which we had not done in the beginning. So we knew, that part of it wanted to happen. I knew I wanted to have at least one shorter, trickier par three in there. So, I had enough of an idea that I could send Sammy out there and say, just get me access in there. And once he does that, then I can walk through, and now, at least most of the time, I can say, oh, wow, look at these huge, beautiful cypress trees over here. There's some over here. Let's at least consider working around those. So we'd have him go in and clear those areas and then come through again. And now we're starting to see, well, there's in some cases too many cypress trees in one area. There's no gaps between them. So let's look over here and clear that out and just, excuse me, one step at a time, over and over and over until I finally see, the lines that are good, places where there are smaller trees that we can remove to create the lines. And, it's typically a pretty lengthy process. So, to get it done this quickly, and I mean, I'm very particular. I'm not gonna walk away until I feel like, we got everything the way it needed to be. So, again, just amazing team effort to get it all done, and to get me where I needed to be to see everything and make those decisions.
In the process of designing a course, you're designing it for a community that's passionate about the course already. And everybody, I'm sure, playing that course had stood at a certain spot or put flags in a certain spot in the fairway, made their alternate tees, pin positions. How often do you hear that chatter? Like, oh, I really wish the tee pad was over here. How often do you hear that? And how often do you ever take that advice and incorporate it into your own designs? Or are you that particular?
No, no, I'm always happy to listen. And with the handful of pros who are already on site today, my question is, how do we make it better? I mean, it's nice when somebody says, "Oh, I love it," but I don't learn anything from that, and that doesn't help make the course better. So what I told, Albert, Tom, and Ezra and Joey and Eli and Chris Dickerson was out there, Lisa Fakis. I said, "Look, you can't hurt my feelings. Just tell me how we make it better." And so they're saying, "Well, Vine's here, Briar's here, maybe we need a little bit of this and that." So, I take that to heart. I don't automatically say, uh, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am, we're going to do that. But really, with these particular players, all their feedback has been very helpful. I got to include Silas in that because he's not here this week. I guess he's at Disc South. But we've been texting, and so, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know what I believe in. I'm very solid on my principles. I know what I'm looking for, but that doesn't mean that other people, can't have good input, especially people who are out there playing. And I need to include some of the locals in that. Nathan Farber, who's the president of the New Orleans Disc Golf Club and who is a 990 something rated player. I heard from him, and I heard from some of the local guys, but yeah, I'm always happy to hear it. And I may say thank you very much, or I may say, you know what, I agree with that. But most of the feedback I got from these guys the last few days has just been, there's a dangling vine on hole number 3, or we need a few more limbs on this one approach shot on number 8, that kind of thing. And that's great feedback to have.
Mm-hmm. That's easy stuff. Yeah. So I'm sure that's a lot better to hear than this hole sucks. This hole needs to change. A tee pad needs to go here. Basket needs to go over here.
You know what? I'm happy to hear that. And even if we can't do anything about it, and even if I don't think we should do anything about it, it's important to know that a certain population of the playing percentage doesn't appreciate this hole. And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that at a high level, some of the feedback you get from players might have a little self-interest mixed in there. Like, I don't throw this far, the basket should be closer, or I love tight lines, so I think you should put more tight lines in there, that kind of thing. But anyway, there's, like I said, I want to learn. That is where, so that feedback is important there, as long as it's presented in a constructive way. I appreciate that. And yeah, like I said, you're not going to hurt my feelings by giving me your honest opinion.
Well, I'd love to know your opinion on this. It's a discussion that I feel like I've been hearing as the tour has evolved. You're starting to have some players like Simon Lizotte, for example, that say, I kind of want some disc golf courses where 14, 15, 16 under par can be shot. I want a little bit easier courses than harder courses sometimes. And then you have courses like Northwood Black, Tom Parade Disc Golf Center that are not going to give you that unless you shoot the round of your life. What is your philosophy on championship disc golf? Should it always live in a certain place? Is variety a good thing? Like where is your role as a designer in this game?
Well, I'm not going to say that I would disagree with Simon, that there might be a place for that. And, Simon has a lot of good design instincts. We've had a lot of opportunities to talk, and I think we're aligned in a lot of ways. And if the tour and enough of the players thought that was a good thing to do, then I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think in this case, I I just find it so hard to give these players, and this is MPO and FPO, to give them something that really turns out to be a challenge for them. Especially on MPO on this one, I went out of my way to say, if I widen this, they may just tear it up. It looks daunting to me. It maybe would have been daunting to players 10 years ago, but these days, I mean, there's just no telling. So, one of the things that people will see on this course this year, especially compared to something that a lot of people are familiar with, like WR Jackson, the overall fairway width, the multiple lines, I love, sizable fair landing areas. The difference this time will be the approaches are generally going to be a lot tighter generally than what I've done in the past. And a lot of the holes will have multiple lines. They're all tight. Um, or maybe one's more generous, but it's going to be hard to get real close to the basket if you take that wider lane. So I think we're going to see a lot of second shots where somebody's really going to have to nail it. You can't just say, well, I hit my drive. Now I'm just going to, put it up there and make my putt and walk on. I mean, you're going to have to make a good drive and a good second shot. And another thing I focused on this time was uh, making as many holes as I could where a player will feel like circle two is a pretty good shot and circle one is primo. So, I mean, look how much the putting has improved over the year. I mean, you get people over 50% from circle two now. I mean, that was never the case, and almost everybody is automatic in circle one. So, my response to the old argument, we need smaller baskets because putting two is too easy, is let's just yeah, yeah, yeah. No. And I get where that's coming from, right? I mean, it's true. Circle one putting for the top players in the world now is too easy. There's very little drama. Everybody knows what's going to happen. I mean, a miss is very much the exception. So if we make the holes so that more people are going to be happy getting to circle two, we're going to see a lot more putting drama and putting excitement. At least that's my hope.
So with that, I fully agree with you. I think course design needs to push players closer to circle two, unless we're in like Emporia, Kansas, where it's 30-mile-an-hour gusts, because then circle one is extremely difficult. And that's really what I started laughing, because the argument of smaller baskets makes me laugh, because I've played those 25, 30-mile-an-hour wind days. That would make it impossible to make a 10-footer if there's any sort of wind. So I think the baskets are fine the way they are. I love what you're trying to do. My question is, how is the wind out there at that course? And how much did you design based on wind directions out there?
Well, considering that we're almost entirely in the woods, And I mean, and so automatically wind is less of a factor. And in my time here, I mean, and I have to be conscious of that because, we have a hole that plays along the canal. And if you use the more aggressive landing areas out by the canal, I mean, and the wind is up, that's going to be a real challenge. So what's now hole number one is a little more open, so wind would be a factor there. But in, 250 hours maybe that I spent on the course since last July, I don't think there's ever been a day where I said, "Oh my God, this is going to be an issue." So, I mean, you know, knock on wood, as soon as I say that, it's going to happen next weekend. Let's hope not. So, I mean, any place can get windy, but for the most part, in my experience here, it's not something that we're overly concerned with.
Awesome. Excellent. Thanks for that. I want to move forward. There's something that I know you wanted to talk about today, and I'm excited for you to talk about it. You wanted to dive in a little bit more on strategy on some of these holes in particular and how the players are going to be playing some of these holes strategy wise. I'd love for you to dive into that on some of the holes out there that you are particularly proud of as a course designer.
Oh, okay. Well, one of the things that I've seen the last couple days, and one player said, "Well, I like it better than I did yesterday, and yesterday I liked it better than the day before." So, I mean, you understand the whole field is basically playing this blind when they get out there. Even people who are familiar with the course, like Silas and Matty O, there's new holes they haven't seen, and the holes that they're familiar with have undergone a major transformation. So it's going to be new for pretty much everybody, and it's not always obvious off the tee. There may be, multiple lines, but it's not obvious which one maybe fits your style better or maybe just fits the way you're playing that day better. So in my mind, of all the courses I've ever done, this is probably the one that requires or rewards course knowledge from experience. I've done a lot of courses where I felt like, you can walk up to the tee and understand pretty well what you want to do. But with all the different options and the various landing areas, hole number two, uh, something I've never done before. I mean, there are two very different routes. One is a wide, and I'm going to speak from the perspective of a righty backhand because that's just how I was raised. A long turnover shot, which gives you a big long hyzer shot to the pin, and those are both pretty open, and the landing area is very generous, but that's a much longer way to play the hole. If you take the straighter, tighter route off the tee, you're going to have a straighter, tighter approach to the pin, so it cuts off a lot of distance, but there's more risk. So my hope is that those two different lines will appeal to people with different styles. And one bonus of taking that wider route, the landing area is right near the boardwalk that goes through the park. So that's going to be a really neat spectator area for people to be up on the boardwalk. They'll be able to see players up and close. But to have two landing areas that are more than 150 feet apart is a new thing, at least for me. And I'm hoping it's going to add a new dimension to that hole. Other holes that really stand out to me, hole four is the par five along the canal. You have a choice of what looks like a pretty typical wooded fairway with a tight hyzer, a wider hyzer, and a lefty route, or they all butt up against a small pond that's at about 450. So, getting close to but not trying to carry that pond is a good strategy. Or if you want to carry the pond and go out by the canal, which requires 475-ish to clear.
Wow.
There's a big, flat, wide landing area, that's from the edge of the canal in 60, 70 feet. And if you hit that, you've got a big hyzer out over the canal to the
Wow.
pin to play for eagle. So, and if anybody wants to, there's also the option to kind of play um, uh, 3 shots or maybe even 4 shots and stay safe, stay in the woods, keep the canal out of play, but you're going to have tighter lines that are trickier. So hopefully that's a good option for people. I kind of have a fondness for hole number 9, which is a par 3 that we made out of the old hole number 6, but created a brand new green. The parish brought in a ton of dirt for this so that we could build up the green. It's probably from the lowest part of the fairway to the top of the green, maybe 8 to 10 feet on a slope going right up to the pin, but sloping down on both sides. So even circle 1 on that one, if you're, on the edge of circle 1, you're going to have an uphill putt. It looks beautiful. It's playing tough. So that's a favorite of mine. And then, of course, the new hole number 1 is just, I can't wait to see people play that. And also 14, which is the one
Yes.
where yeah, okay.
Talk about it.
The parish built us a new pond, and it is beautiful. Um, because hole 4 gives you that righty hyzer out over the canal. I wanted to do the same thing coming back the other direction, so it's like a lefty hyzer out over the canal. A little issue right there is that there's a very nice mountain bike trail there. And so I said to the bike guy, well, could we maybe just reroute a little stretch of the mountain bike trail? And uh, that was a non-starter. And he said, well, why don't you just build a pond and throw over that? And the parish said, yeah, we can do that. So there you go. So they send people over to dig the pond. It's beautiful. It's close to the canal, and so if the water level ever gets low, they can actually pump water into it from the canal, which they did yesterday to make sure the water level's high for the tournament. And so I was able to design that shot where it's not as much as of a hyzer, but a lefty can throw something out over the pond and bring it back in on your drive. And then you've got, depending on where you land, a variety of lines to get to the pin. So the drive, it's pretty much a minimum 400-foot carry to get to where you want to be going over the pond. I did everything I could to make sure that a shot that lands closer to the pond gets a wider line to the pin, and the farther away from the pond you are, the tighter the lines get to the pin. So it's beautiful. And I told the contractor when the time came when we made the black tee, I said, I want people to be able to stand on this tee and see the pond. So we need to raise it up. And they said, how high? And I said, well, I'm not worried about Gannon and AB seeing it. I want to be able to see the pond. So I'm a person of normal stature, 5'5", instead of some of these gigantic players that we have these days. So they elevated that tee for us. I mean, I don't know how it would be possible, but it seems like the grass is even greener on that fairway than it is anywhere else, and it leads right up to the pond, which on most days is crystal clear right now, and it's amazing. And one other thing about that pond, which I haven't even talked about with anybody else. So this is a all birdies breaking news. We because of drainage issues, I couldn't quite make the pond as long as I had hoped. I mean, I wanted to make it the far end of the pond, 600 feet from the tee, so that uh, and it's tight. Obviously, these guys potentially could still do that, but it becomes very, very hard and very risky to carry the whole length of the pond.
Of course.
But yes, but the last 100 feet, because of drainage issues and the existing pipes that were in there, we had to cut it about 100 feet short. So from measuring from the tee, between 500 and 600 feet, we have a series of mounds now that are, and this is a feature that I've been working on. I've got it in the plans of 4 or 5 other courses that haven't been built yet. So these are the first ones that will actually be in play. And I typically have been doing about a 5-to-1 slope. The idea is it's steep enough that it affects your stance, right? So you have to think about, do I want to do a run up? Do I do a standstill? Maybe a one step? Your footing and your balance are affected a little bit, but it's also got to be gradual enough so that if a disc hits it, it's going to stick and not just roll back into the fairway, or in this case, potentially roll back into the pond. So I was very fortunate that Silas was able to come out just in the short little window between building those mounds and the course being shut down. And he stood on there and he said, "Yeah, I don't think I want to be here. But if I am, it's better than being other places. And if you're going to miss the landing area, better to be on the mounds than in the woods." So I'd be surprised, but you never know if anybody actually takes on the mounds and say, "Well, I'm just going to get as much distance as I can and try to put it on those mounds." And even if everybody's trying to avoid them, some people are obviously going to get in there at some point. So I'm really interested to see how those play. It's something that I've been working on for the last couple of years, and this will really kind of be the debut. And interested to see, because you can wind up on the upslope or you can wind up on the downslope. And if your lead foot is lower than your back foot and you still have 350 plus to get to
Way
the
harder.
pin, I believe that is going to be the case. So anyway, you just got the scoop on those, and that's just more of what makes hole 14 such a standout hole.
Well, I want to ask you more about this because I'm looking at this caddy book, and I see, obviously I haven't seen any drone scenics yet. We haven't gotten that footage yet before the broadcast, but I see just past the pond, there's a little bailout zone cleared off to the right, almost like the finish of a lefty hyzer. Is there an
Yes.
area, if you go too far to the right and you miss the main fairway, are there gaps to shoot down that side?
If you're lined up extra safe and you throw a lefty hyzer, you clear the pond on your way back in, and you wind up, I mean, you'd have to wind up at least 80 feet from the
Okay.
pond before you're having to get super creative. But anything between the pond edge and that 80 feet or whatever that number is, you're going to have at least one line to the basket. As I said, my goal was that they would get gradually harder as you get farther from the basket. But wherever you are on that spectrum, as you move along, this one gap is going to uh, the angle is going to shut it down, but immediately another one's going to open. So any drive that hits the landing area is going to have a good way to get to the basket. Cool. It's just going to be some version of how tight it is, and that corresponds to how close to the pond you put your drive.
Well, there's a couple bigger picture questions I'd like to ask, but I would be foolish if I didn't allow you again on this show to talk about the tee pads, because it's so funny. I've already seen people talking about the tee pads. And some people are like disgusted by them because of how big they are, but then some people are like, well, I love these. They're huge. I love them. I love the lines. I love how clear they are. And I love that we don't have to run off of mud to get to the tee pad. I would love for you to talk about this. I know this is a D Houck creation, your wife, but I'd love for you to dive into that.
All right, will do. This is something that she's been working on for several years. We've been talking to several clients over the years about putting them in, and several clients will be. And again, just with the mound thing, Jefferson Parish is going to get to be the ones, and DGPT are going to get to be the ones who debut it. And by the way, if I can take just a very quick detour, how great that today is International Women's Day. And we're in a sport where I think we're doing a great job recognizing the women players, and it's time for us to do a little more to recognize the women who are in the business side of it and really making things happen. I mean, Dee has done more for disc golf than anybody knows. She has always been an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur within the disc golf industry for 20 years now, but she's been a leader all her life. She didn't know anything about this industry when she came in, and she's still been able to contribute so much and contribute to the growth of the sport. It's just remarkable. I mean, she takes risks, including, I mean, it's at least to some extent putting her neck on the line with these tee pads, because I don't know if you've noticed this, Brian, but you cannot make everybody happy.
Yes.
Shocking truth of life. But we have had just raves from some of the players who have played on them the last few days. We've had raves from people who have just seen them. And so I really want to give a shout out to her. I just feel so lucky that she chose me and that she chose disc golf. It's so great to work with her, and we're growing the sport together in really complementary ways. I mean, she knows a lot about design, but she knows a lot about design, and she has expertise in other areas, including this one. She is an engineer's daughter, after all. But, she studied not just the safety aspects and the sustainability aspect, but she studied pro players and what they have to do. And, it's just crazy. I don't want to call anybody out, and I know a lot of times you have practical limitations, but these tee pads where people have to start, with their heels off the back of the pad, to start, and you have to be really conscious of your follow through that you don't fall off it after you release. Besides the fact that sometimes, even in the best cases, you're coming off of pavers onto the tee or gravel onto the tee, and in less ideal conditions, you're going from mud onto the tee, or God knows what that you have to be thinking about in the middle of your run up, including stepping up onto it. And kudos to the players. They've all gotten really, really good at that because they had to. But her goal was to say, let's give them a consistent level to be on, consistent texture. So you're not having to make those changes in the middle of your run up. You've got extra follow through room up in front. So if you want to continue after you've made your throw, you can and not have to worry about it. And, she said since the beginning, imagine what the top player or any players of any level might be able to do if they have that freedom, that they don't have to be so concerned about how they step and their footwork and all that. And they can just, let loose. So, the goal is to give players that freedom to really be able to execute the drive the way they want to. And another news flash just for you, I was not there, but I heard from a witness that on hole 18, which is one of the two holes that have the bigger pads, James Conrad actually started on concrete. You heard it here first.
You did it. You finally did it.
Yeah,
How does that feel?
Well, I didn't do it, but
D did it.
D did it, and to be fair, I think James was taking less than his traditional, uh, what we would consider a typical Conrad run up. But no, it's great. And then you showed the diagram, and there are photos up in places now. It also has a series of lines at different angles. So that does multiple things. It allows the player to say, well, I think I need to come in at a little different angle, so I'm going to start on the left side of this line instead of the right side. For players who are just developing, it gives them a guideline of maybe where they want to be and try different things. It will give commentators, I don't know if you know anybody who might be in the booth this weekend, the opportunity to say, look, you will get more detail about the line and the positioning of the player as they're throwing than you would have had if they were just coming off grass. And potentially there are even, statistical possibilities in there about how many people are coming in this way, that way, greater angle, lesser angle. So it does so many things, and we've had like I said, at least one elite player has said, "I hope this becomes the standard on the tour." And by the way, as big as those are on 1 and 18, she actually has bigger ones on her drawing board. So it's I think, yeah, there will always be naysayers, but we're hoping that this is a big step forward in the history of disc golf tee areas.
First off, shout outs to you and D and your whole team for constantly thinking about what the next step is. Because for me, I was on tour, small window, 18 to 21. And every weekend it was talk about tee boxes, tee boxes, tee boxes, not tee pads. We want tee boxes. Obviously, from a financial standpoint, from a practicality standpoint, it's to pull it off. It's a lot of concrete, it's a lot of turf, blah, blah, blah. But we all knew from a safety standpoint, that's the place that you want us to throw these massive shots as the courses get longer and longer. Yours is 12,370 feet. You you owe it to the players to give them something like this if you're making them throw the shots on this 12,000-foot course. So yeah, I'm so excited for it to play out. And I'm so excited for players to not have to walk through mud and traipse it all over the tee pad and make it slicker and slicker throughout the weekend. And yeah, I just want to give you a big shout out for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know Dee appreciates that. By the way, I caught the pun when you said this was the next step. But that's what this
Unintended.
is what this is all about. And we really also have to give a lot of credit to Jefferson Parish for being willing to make the commitment in spirit and financially to make this happen. But it's just one of so many things that make this course stand out.
Well, John, I have two big picture questions for you. The first one I think will be easier to answer. The second one I probably should have sent you ahead of time, but that's okay. We'll let you think about it. But first question, you've been doing this a long time. You've designed some absolutely wonderful courses. I was a PDGA intern in 2012. I spent a lot of time at WR Jackson. It was a spiritual experience being a kid from the Chicago suburbs, going out there and smelling pine and red clay for the first time.
Mm.
Over all the years that you've designed those types of courses, what have you learned as a designer? What do you look back on and say, man, if I knew what I know now, I probably would have done it this way?
There are things out there, and I don't ever want to feel like, this is where I'm going to be the rest of my career. I always want to improve. I always want to innovate. I always want to find ways to make things better. There are um, so I've said I'm a better designer than I was 30, 40 years ago. I'm a better designer than I was 5 years ago. And I hope I'm a better designer 5, 10 years down the way. So you know, what I've learned about my principles and techniques, and one of the things that's really interesting to me is I would look at a wooded property, say 2005 when WR Jackson started, and it was a real challenge to visualize what the fairway might ultimately look like. And that's still the case today, but experience is such a great teacher. I see things and angles and landing areas so much faster than I used to, just because I've been doing it so long. And the whole thing gets complicated by the fact that there are so many changes in the skill levels, right? Because these players push each other so hard, and even because we all our courses are designed to accommodate beginners also. And think about what life is like for someone who's never played before today, because they don't know any better and they just bought a Firebird, versus somebody who is just starting to play when the fastest disc they could buy was a Stingray. So their experience is so different. And there was a time where we would never design a hole that went out pretty straight and finished hard right, because that's too hard to do with the backhand. And I mean, for that matter, I always encourage people not to make shots that went out straight and finished hard left, because it's too hard for lefties. But now we're at the point where we can say, at least to some segment of the population, you don't have a sidearm, what can I do for you? So, what the changes in the technology and the playing techniques and the skill, I've had to accommodate that. On the plus side, disc golf has come so far, and places like Jefferson Parish, some of the other municipalities we're working with, and the private people that we're working with, they understand now that this is a real thing. They understand now that a high quality course has economic benefits, right? It's not just another amenity for the people who live in your community, which this course absolutely is, and that's how it got started. And we always wanted to be that. But it also can have quality of life, health benefits, and economic benefits, because people want to come into town and play your course. And if you get on the DGPT, then that all goes to another level. So as a result of that, they're willing to put more money into it to make their course stand out. And that allows me, I mean, I had stuff that I drew up 20 years ago that I'm just finally able to do now, because the client is willing to put the excavators out there or dig the ponds or whatever it is to make it happen. So I feel very, very blessed to be able to do this, and to have the partner that I have, and to have the clients and the properties that we're able to work on. So um, are there things from 20 years ago that I wish maybe I had a do-over. There are a few, but I want to keep focused on moving forward and doing everything we can to just get better and better with every project.
Thank you for that. Perfect answer. Fantastic. I now have a fun question for you.
Okay.
You are PDGA number 1688. You've been around the block a few times. You've played double disc court. You've freestyled. You've done the overall. You've played everything. Since you started playing, or maybe from all the knowledge you've gained over the years in all these different disciplines, what, in your opinion, is the most influential single disc of all time? Frisbee, golf disc, freestyle disc. What had the most cultural impact at the time of release, at least from your opinion?
Oh, okay. So not who's the greatest of all time, but who had the biggest impact at that time?
I'm talking about disc, not human.
No,
I'm
no,
talking
no, no, no.
about
No, I got you. I guess I was anthropomorphizing the discs because they're such good friends of ours. Wow. Yeah, you should have sent that to me ahead of time. Um, oh my goodness. You know, you got to go to the Whammo 165 as a contender. What it did for the freestyle world, and obviously, I mean, that became the standard for ultimate forever and ever. And then, the arrow has to be there as the first big bevel edge disc that, was a huge change I mean, getting disc golf started on the path it's on now. But I think the most impactful disc, Brian, is the disc that somebody gives you when they say, "Here, try one of these. It's going to change your life." Um, is that? I hope that's not too much of a cop out. But but I mean, but seriously, people's lives are changed. You said somebody's out there playing with a traditional frisbee, and somebody says, "Here, try this beveled edge disc," and I mean, it changes people's lives. So that's a really cool question, and maybe when we talk again in a few days, I'll have something to add to the list. But I'm going to go that between the Whammo 165 World Class and the Arrow, those are, one of them is the Michael Jordan and one of them is the LeBron.
John, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure there's a lot more media you're going to be having to do this week. But again, I cannot wait to be there in the booth and call the action out there at the course. Good luck this week.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you and Charlie are going to be in the booth. We're really looking forward to it, and it has been a joy to finally get to sit down with you and have this kind of talk. Really appreciate it.
Take care. Yep. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Wow. Well, it is safe to say that I've experienced the entire spectrum of human emotion from those two interviews. Wow. What a great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Grand Cypress Bayou making its debut on the Disc Golf Pro Tour this coming week for the Big Easy Open just outside of New Orleans. I cannot wait. I will be in the booth alongside Charlie Eisenhood. Sarah Hokum will be filling in for me for FPO. Nate Perkins will be out there on the ground. So many things to look forward to. I think if I were to take away from Ricky's discussion, I feel his competitive drive. And I also feel like in his storytelling, you get glimpses of why he is known as a momentum player. Like when he was talking about how the tunnels have like personalities and they like fear you when you show up to them confident. It feels like Ricky tries to get him into that mode where the holes are afraid of him. And that's when he's playing his best golf. He also believes that luck is tied to confidence, which is a really interesting thought as well. That was some of the best storytelling from Rick that I've gotten in my career, and that was wonderful. Houck, on the other hand, is just a master. And in my life, I'm working on a course design. I'm not the lead like John Houck, but I'm helping out with one that I'm not going to talk about. And it is a really wonderful process. And learning from a man like that is just incredible. I learned so much listening to him talk about all the little things that he does to address designing a course like this. And the other thing that I noticed from him is that he wants the holes to be puzzles. And I think that's one of the coolest elements in disc golf course design. I love when a course grows on a player, grows on a field where initially they step up, they play a hole and they go, I don't get it. A Frisbee doesn't go that way. And then over time, people begin to realize that it's actually a pretty cool shot. I'll never forget, I think it was old hole 10 at the Toboggan. Players used to, maybe it was 9, no, it was 10, uphill, dogleg right, par 3. Players are having a tough time getting to that green. Kevin Jones throws a roller and finally opens the can of worms, and everybody realizes that they can do the same thing. And I think he's designed a course that's going to make people think. And the best player this weekend is going to be the one that pays the most attention to all the little intricacies that he puts in there on every one of these 18 holes. I cannot wait. Brand new event of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Yeah, shout outs to Ricky, shout outs to John Houck. Perkins, we will see you soon, my friend. Missed you this week, but we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much.